Hi, I'm Christine from House of Smocking, and in this video I'm going to show you how to attach the back yokes to the skirt. Now I've already done some preparation. I've done the darts both on the inside, on both edges, and I've also ironed a piece of interfacing onto the inside edge, which gives strengthening for buttonholes and the buttons, and I've done this on both sides. Like so. I've also done the placket and just sewn down the top edge to hold that in place. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to gather up the two skirt halves to fit the yoke. So here I am doing 2 rows of stitch length 4. I show you stitch length 4 there. And I've done 1 row near the top, and I'm doing 1 further in, which is on the left hand side of the seam that I'll be sewing later on. So now I'm going to gather the back yoke to the back skirt part. Now this is, you do the back yoke is on a fold. You'll also notice that I've used what they call the dropped yoke pattern piece, which means it'll come down to nearly the waist at the back, and that if I'd just smocked on the back, then I'd have used the high yoke, which would have finished about there. But this is a drop yoke because there's no smocking on the back. So this is the right side, and that's the lining. So I'm going to turn that over and open it out, and I'm going to pin the outer edge to there. And then the fold, I'm going to then pin that in line with the edge of the placket. And then I'm going to turn it over. And I'm going to gather by pulling these 2 threads from my gatherings that I did for stitch 4, and I'm going to pull those up. So I've gathered it all up and pinned it, and then you can tack it before you sew if you want, but then you want to sew a seam, which, given the seam allowance for this pattern, is 5/8 of an inch, and sew from that edge right away to the far edge. You'll notice when I gathered it, I didn't gather right to the very end of the fabric, because this is going to be the seam allowance, so the less bulk in there the better. So when I've sewn that seam, turn that upright, and then you'll see that that's my back yoke attached to my skirt. And we don't want to do anything with the lining part yet, because that doesn't get attached until we've added the collar. Then when you've done that side, you do exactly the same for the other side. So that's the way I want it to look when it's finished. So I turn it over to lay it on the fabric. So that's my lining, and that's the back of my yoke. And I line up with the crease, with the edge of my placket. Pin that, pin the other edge, and then turn it over and pull the gathering threads until it fits that yoke. So here I've done the other side, and you can see that I've just done my sewing line just above the gathering thread, so that I've got a gathering thread above and below, and that helps to keep the gathering nice and neat and easier to do your sewing line. So now I'm going to just turn my lining like that. I'll press that flat, and then that will go over like that to be the lining on the inside. So here we have the back of the dress made up, and the last thing we can do is we can attach the ties. So what I've done is I've put 2 rows of stitch length 4 threads across the ends of the ties and gathered them up, I find that this gives me less bulk when attaching my belts into the side seam. So I line that up with the bottom edge. In fact, I'll do it about halfway, I think. Yes, do it about halfway. So bottom seam, put that about halfway with my belt and just pin it, and then you can attach it. So here we have the back of the dress finished and the ties sewn on. Make sure that you don't attach them to the lining, just to the single layer. So this is the end of this video, and the next video I'll cover French seams, attaching the front to the back.